Snow White. In a distant country, there is a beautiful and kind princess named Snow White. Snow White's stepmother is an evil queen who has a magic mirror. Every day, the queen would ask Magic Mirror, "Mirror, who is the most beautiful woman in the world?" Magic Mirror always answers, "Queen, you are the most beautiful woman in the world." The queen was very proud when she heard this. However, as Snow White grew up, she became more and more beautiful and charming. One day, the queen asked Magic Mirror as usual, but Magic Mirror replied, "Queen, although you are beautiful, Snow White is more beautiful than you." When the queen heard this, she was jealous and hated, and she was determined to get rid of Snow White. The queen called a hunter and said to him, "Go and bring Snow White to the forest and kill her, and bring her heart back to me." The hunter did not dare to disobey the queen's orders, so he had to take Snow White into the forest. However, when the hunter saw Snow White's pure and kind appearance, he really couldn't do it. So the hunter said to Snow White, "Princess, run away quickly. I won't hurt you." Snow White glanced at the hunter gratefully and ran desperately into the deep forest. Snow White ran and ran in the forest. After running for a long time, he finally arrived in front of a small house. She was tired and hungry, so she walked into the house. There were 7 small beds, 7 small chairs and 7 pairs of small tableware neatly placed in the house. Snow White was tired and hungry. She sat on every little chair, ate a little food from each dish, then lay down on a small bed and fell asleep quickly. It turns out that this small house is the home of 7 dwarves. At night, 7 dwarves came home and found the house was messy and there was a beautiful girl sleeping in their bed. After Snow White woke up, she told the dwarfs about her experience. The dwarfs sympathized with her and decided to take her in. The queen thought Snow White was dead, so she asked Magic Mirror who was the most beautiful woman in the world. Magic Mirror still answered that Snow White is the most beautiful. The queen was very angry when she knew Snow White was still alive. She came up with a bad idea, dressed herself up as an old woman and came to the dwarf's house with a poisonous apple. When Snow White saw this old woman, she didn't know that she was the queen. The old woman took out the apple and said, "This is a delicious apple, you can eat it." Snow White took the apple, took a bite, and immediately fell to the ground. The 7 dwarves returned home and saw Snow White lying on the ground. They were all very sad. They placed Snow White in a crystal coffin. After a long time, a handsome prince passed by here and saw Snow White lying in a crystal coffin. The prince was moved by Snow White's beauty, and he couldn't help but kiss Snow White. A miracle happened and Snow White woke up. It turned out that the prince's kiss removed the poison of the apple. The prince took Snow White back to his country. They held a grand wedding and lived a happy life from then on. And the evil queen, after learning that Snow White was still alive and married the prince, was so angry that she was filled with smoke, and finally died in pain and anger. This story tells us that good people will eventually be happy, while evil people will eventually be punished. We must be kind and brave people and treat others with a sincere heart, so that we can gain friendship and happiness.